Hey, what's saying my connection is weak. Am I on Wi-Fi? I don't know if I am or not. Anyway, hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kev, the Cashflow DJ. Coming back at you with another episode here in the 30-day challenge. This is day number 19, technically, whatever. It's for in our world. It's day number 19. Don't get me bogged down in details. But anyways, day number 19. Motivational Mondays. We're talking about time management and your big why. Kind of how they're connected, and all of this stuff is connected. It's all intertwined together. Depending on how you look at it. But anyways, let's kind of delve into it. Hey, how's it going, Reese? Reese Urban's in the house. What's up, big dog? Let's kind of go into it a little bit about time management. And kind of what we're talking about, when we're getting into that, we kind of do know a little bit about it, but, be acquainted with it somewhat. But time management is basically success. I call it, or one thing you can call it is success management. It's success. Without success, you need success to manage. You don't need time management. You have to make it a habit. You have to make it a daily part of your ritual. It's not something that a lot of times you may be concerned about or think about unless we're at a job or we kind of have something specifically set up. But for personal things, other professional ambitions, sometimes it's not something we think about. But yeah, time management is very important. If you're going to do something, it's usually going to be kind of big or somewhat bigger. Something that's going to take more than a day or two to do. It may take you a while. It may take some work. And you're going to have to do it consistently each day. You got to put some time into it. So you're going to have to manage your day and reserve your day and fight and guard that particular pocket or that particular section or some kind of a section of your day to do what you need to do, because it can quickly get crowded out if we don't really have our minds focused on that. It's easy to get it crowded out. That's why we don't really think about it when it comes to jobs and stuff like that, because of external accountability. And we have a boss, whipping the clock at us. But when it's something that we're doing, it's easy to kind of look the other way. But anyway, it is necessary, especially if you're trying to do something. And a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us want to do some things. We have ambition, and we have some things in life that we want to do, things that we want to accomplish. And they may there may be some size involved in whatever we're doing. It's a little bit big. Not huge, but, stretches us a little bit. But anyway, we're talking about time management. We're looking at kind of a definition of it, of getting a little philosophical. And some of this stuff I'm going to get into gets a tad bit philosophical, personal development. But what is time? Well, there's not really anything tangible. Time is life. Life is made up of time. Not much of it. And when you get up in age, like in my years and stuff, it starts flying by. Time is life. Now, that doesn't mean life is just the movement of the clock. It's not just days, weeks, and months, and years going by, and decades going by, but it's actually events. So without getting too philosophical, we can agree that a quality life consists of the quality of your time that goes by. Because if you're sitting there all day staring at a wall, or you're suffering all day long, your time will still go by, but it's the quality of your life is kind of way reduced, and as those days go by. But living your life is the same as living your day. The quality of your day, the content of your day, that makes the quality and content of your life. So just doing a little silly stuff, although you want to enjoy things, but doing a little silly stuff that doesn't have a lot of meaning, it kind of tends to wither away precious time that we do have. The time is made up of events, activities. It moves by itself. We don't have to help it move. It will move. Sometimes we can make it speed up by doing certain activities. And that's only an appearance. Time is not going faster or slower. It just appears that way because of what's going on in time. So we don't have very much control over that. Really none at all. But we do choose the events. We do choose the activities. And those events and activities are measured and contained and controlled by time. Oh, I'm doing my notes again. My Evernotes. I take extensive Evernotes. I got a lot in here on time management because that's powerfully important. If you got a busy schedule and a busy day, a lot of things on your plate, things you're trying to do. So this is one of the notes that I have in there. I'll put the link up to it later, talking about time management. Now, the Earth goes around the sun in a year. It rotates in another circle in 24 hours. Those are events. Those are activities. And time measures their movements. Now, our lives are filled with different events all day long, every day. I don't care. We sleep. We land on the couch sleeping, on the bed sleep. That is an event. It's an activity. We may be inactive, but it's still an activity. So it moves on its own by itself. We don't have any control over it. Our lives are filled with those events. So time management boils down to, and I learned this a long time ago from reading a book by this guy Hiram Hicks. He's a Franklin Day Planner. Time management and success management is actually event control. You control the events. You can control, for the most part, control the events to a degree. We don't have complete control, but we have a measure of control over the events that happen. So those events will have some type of emotion attached to each event. It might have a physical sensation, a physical experience. Either it's going to be something we like or something we don't like. It might be pleasurable, unpleasant, interesting, or uninteresting, whatever. That's going to affect how we perceive that time passing. So time management is, although it's success management, it winds up being emotional management. Because we want to do this, we don't want to do that. And that's a conflict between our emotions about what we want to do and what we want to do that excites us. So we have to manage or control or whatever our emotions so that we can do other certain things. You have to organize it. You got to control it. It's basically emotional management, physical management, work management, event management, process management, project management, energy management. Now, I get deep on these subjects or whatever. So when I get into this time management thing, I go subterranean deep into it, conceptually what it really is, and get a real well-rounded view of what it is. Now, to be a manager, you got to organize things, you got to control them, you got to dominate things, you have to choose certain things, master certain things, all this comes in management. Okay, what it is, a job or whatever, parents, kids. You got to authorize, you got to monitor, administer, steer, and guide time. Not just time, really, but the events and activities within that time frame. So that means sometimes things that are pleasing to you, or pleasurable to you, things that are enjoyable to you, will have to be stopped because of that clock. And that clock can be very brutal. It's like a moving axe. It just moves like this big chopping block. And it can move fast or slow, but when that clock moves, whatever is supposed to be done has to be abruptly stopped, and you have to go to the next thing. Now, that might interrupt some activities, and something might be more mundane, something might be more important, some things just got to get out of the way, that got to be done. That's going to take discipline. That's going to take some discipline, because you have to cut off activity A, so you can start activity B. Now, some of this stuff sounds, what you want to call that, people who may have some criticism, sounds, I guess, simplistic or like a no-brainer. Okay. To certain individuals, depend on how you look at things. Now, you saw that how I just broke it down. Depends on how you look at things. Yes, you could choose to say, it's very simplistic. It's just something that everybody and their mama knows about already. Maybe so. But that depends on how you look at that. That depends on perspective. That depends on what you're doing and how important what you're doing is to you or somebody else. So it may be simplistic, but for some people, depending on what you're trying to do, it's not. And it depends on how you look at it. But anyway, you or the clock going to have to play the bad guy sometimes. Got to be the party pooper, the authoritarian, or the spoil sport. That's where accountability comes in, either group or external accountability, or self-accountability. If there's nobody there but you got to kick it in. So somebody's got to be determined enough, excited enough, motivated enough, disciplined enough, or compelled enough to enforce or inspire cutting something off. Now, here's a good point, good way to look at things. We're talking about perspective. Is it possible to make time management exciting or even enjoyable? And we just could talk about self-discipline and all of this and making choices and emotions and all of that. Is it possible to make it exciting? Of course it is. It's perspective. That's why you can't, everything is not black and white, not to say everything, but a lot of things aren't black and white. Now the same way we did for the, can we skip that part? It's all about perspective. Hey, how's it going, Cleo? Cracker Barrel in the house, my man Cleo. See, once again, it's all about perspective, man. Perspective is just like when you was in art class. I don't know if you all took art class, and you this way, and the horizon looks big or small over there. The mountain looks like it's about 2 inches tall, but that's because you're far away from the mountain. That's a big mountain, but the way you look, it's perspective. So you see the bigger dream, the bigger picture, rather than the day-to-day process or the day-to-day obstacles and stuff. There's going to be resistances, there's going to be problems, challenges, difficulties, delays, setbacks, opponents, attacks, temptations, withdrawals, and difficulties. All that stuff I just named off, that's inevitable to come from somewhere, somehow, in some way or some fashion. Yeah, it's simplistic, or it could be viewed that way, but depending on what we're talking about, depending on what your specific thing is. Now, here's the other part I kind of added in with this, because it's really part of another note on a different subject, but just linked together, which has got time management and your why. It's also, when it comes to this time thing, or just handling your scheduling and your discipline with your scheduling and how you organize it, it's also about your why. And what I sometimes call it, or a lot of people call it, is the big why. Now, what is the why? What is your why? What is the big why? Depends on what you're doing. But having and knowing what your big why is also turns that activity from a might be, a should be, a could be, a would be, a maybe. See, that makes things debatable. A someday, one of these days, as soon as this happens, that doesn't really make it, because your why is not big enough, it's not a must. See, I learned that from, listening to Tony Robbins a long time ago. You have to have your why has to be big enough to turn it into a must. And that's a whole nother subject matter. I got to go into one of my other subjects to go deeper into the whole making things a must thing, because there's a whole process that goes with it. It gets a little deep. But if it's not a must, or if it's not a got to, where you got to have dedication, commitment, and all that, accountability and all of that, it's not going to work. It's not going to stick. Your change or your path or whatever, especially without accountability, is not going to stick. Now, what helps to kind of put that big why in there and to turn it into having a must, making things into, I might do it, I could, it's possible, it's theoretical, it's intellectual, but it becomes a must. What changes from that to that is number one, dedication, commitment, accountability, discipline, structure, physical meetings. Because I noticed that the other day when people got to talking, a lot of people, we complain about stuff. There's so much going on in the world. So we get together, have conversations and discussions, we start complaining. Oh, Trump is doing this. Oh, white people doing this. Black folks doing this. Mexicans doing this. Oh, the job is doing this. The corporation is doing this. The rich people, we start complaining. And you got a whole bunch of people, 10, 20, 30 of us sitting around, we all complaining. Easy to do. Easy to do. You don't take but 2 seconds and a little bit of hot air and a little attitude to complain about something. You ain't doing jack, but you're complaining about it. And it's very attractive to join into something that complains, because you agree with that and you're probably on the brunt end of it. But rather than complaining, when it comes time to actually do something, there's a lot of times people start falling back. They ain't as quick to jump on that as they are to complain about it, especially if they have to have some sort of responsibility to actually do something. Not as quick as they were complaining a minute ago, because it's easier, don't take but 2 seconds to complain. It's a whole lot more work and responsibility to do something sustainable and actually effective. That you can actually do something about it. So I did that yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It was a subject on a post that we had, and some people, start throwing up. Everybody, we complain. We were legitimate complaining. There's nothing wrong with the complaint. It was legitimate. But we started throwing up, certain people started throwing up some things. Well, we ought to do this. Let's do that. Let's do that. And I was been down to do some things. I've got some stuff in pocket ready to launch. Just that, you have to have some people that's ready to follow through on it. So the minute I start chiming in, I'm like, yeah, well, let's do this and do this and do this, and start coming up with some specifics. I started doing this right here where it says discipline, structure, physical meetings. When you start setting meetings, you start setting schedules, you start setting appointments, you start setting deadlines, that stuff is real. When you have consequences involved, when you get rewards involved, you get incentives involved, you've gone beyond talking and complaining. And if your big why is big enough, passionate enough, you have enough purpose, you have enough meaningfulness, enough impact behind your big why, and it moves you enough, yeah, you ready to do something right now, yesterday. They ain't gotta say but 2 words. Let's name your time. Monday, tomorrow morning, you ready. That's when you're in hey, how's it going, Sarah? That's when you're in the mode to do something. That's when your big why is big enough to physically start scheduling and to start doing some things. So you have to, all that stuff I was talking about, rewards, incentives, appointment, schedule, deadline, that's because you have a big why. Big Mike, what's up, Mike? Mike Gilcrease in the house. Mariana, Benton Harbor in the house. I'm going to get with you, man. I'm going to get with you. Being tired of your circumstances kind of gives you into that mode of getting fed up, getting frustrated, getting annoyed. And you get fed up, frustrated, and annoyed enough, and you get tired enough, being tired or sick and tired, until you want to do something about it. Like we got a lot of injustice going on right now all over the country in different formats and different, localities, different situations. And it's been going on for a while. I mean, once or twice is bad, but when you see a pattern of these things, you start, it gets fed up. And sometimes people act out and they start tearing stuff up and rioting, and you don't want to get all into that. But that happens because you've had enough, and you may even feel powerless, but you want to do something. But anyway, you get frustrated, you get fed up, you get annoyed, your regular circumstances, you hit your personal bottom, or you bottom out. That means you are ready. Not a year from now, you're ready. Today. That means you're moved and you're inspired. You have a big enough why that turns it into a must. Once it becomes a must, it's a done deal. You just need the time and the place. Let's go. What day? Let's go. So, hey, I'll meet you so-and-so on the so-and-so corner. Like when you see these street fights a lot of time, the people in the street want to fight, like World Star and everything, or maybe they want to get revenge or whatever. When they ready to fight, and it's a must, all they need is a time and a place. Tomorrow morning, let's go. It's a done deal. It's a done deal. That's because it's a must. They have a big why, and they're passionate about it. But anyway, that's the getting moved and inspired. Being moved and inspired helps you to get your why big enough and passionate enough. It may rev you up, That's why it's also good to be reminded, because sometimes we forget things. If we just get distracted, we let other stuff take over, we forget things. So we need to be reminded of how important something needs to be done. Reminders are powerful. That's what the Bible talks about, are reminders. Like a lot of this stuff, people say, I've read the Bible. Yeah, you have. But there's stuff in there that you need to hear again as a reminder. Very powerful concept about reminders. I got another whole note section on that. But anyway, you need reminders, and then you need to make the decision to do it, or get into the process of deciding to do it. See, a decision or deciding to do something is a process. It's a multi-step process. There's different things. I mean, you can do it at the spur of a moment. Sometimes the processes work simultaneously, or sometimes it may take 2 and 3 steps and stages and phases to actually go on and make a decision, to go on and pull that trigger, or to go on and pull a hammer or whatever. And once you decide to do it, some more thing comes into play. I'm gonna put this link up for this note. I have this note. It's very detailed. I don't have it out in numbers, which I prefer to put my stuff out in numbers, but it's kind of clumped in paragraphs, so it kind of, for me anyway, a little bit harder to follow. When I numerically line stuff up, it becomes easy. Oh, it's freezing up. It's freezing up on me. I think it's freezing up, acting a fool on me, whatever. But it becomes easier to follow when it's numerically, lined up on a point by point basis. But anyway, okay, I don't know if this thing is disconnecting or what. It may be, I don't know what the connection is. Something's going on. But anyway, yeah, let me go on and wrap this up at the end, because I just, like I said, this is some stuff I just added from another note but I kind of combined it onto the time management thing. The time management is the organizing. It's mathematical. It's scientific. This stuff is more psychology. It's more behavior. It's more of a mind thing. It's more of a, there's more involved in it. But in addition to that, deciding to do it, which is a process, and I break that down in a whole nother note. It gets a little deep. Preparing to do it, which is preparation. Preparing to succeed at doing it, which means you're not just doing busy work. You're making sure it's effective. It's solution oriented and it's effective. Advanced preparation, and preparing not only to fight for it, which is anybody can fight if they want to put up a fight, but it's preparing to win the fight. It's one thing to fight, it's the second thing to win the fight. To win the fight, win the war, and to win the battle. There's going to be unprovoked attacks. There's going to be enemies. There's going to be opponents. It never fails. You got to prepare for the conflict and for the confrontation so that you can win the battle. Not just fight the battle, but win the battle. Not if it comes, but when it comes. And then we're going to get into a little bit more detail on the attacks. And that should be about it. Kind of more specifics on the attacks. And that should be about it. Because like I said, this is like 2 notes combined into one. But anyway, you want to prepare in advance to succeed and to fight and win the fight. Now there'll be okay. Now, who did the attacks come from, or where did the attacks come from? What, when, and why will they come? You need to know all that if you're fighting something. I got some names for it. I call it LDP titties and the 6 laws of resistance. You break that down. See those. That's the numerical stuff I do. I put little code words and numerical things like that on there. But anyways, LDP titties and the 6 laws of resistance. What does that mean? Put the link up. LDP is laziness, distraction, and procrastination. These are some of the enemies that might show up that you may have to fight or battle. You want to win that fight or battle. Titties is, I think that's 6 different things. Yeah, it is. Temptation, interruptions. Some of these are redundant, but I don't care. I just use things that are memory aids at work. So it's not perfect. It's a little redundant, but just disregard that. Anyway, titties is T, temptation. I is interruptions. D are distractions. The second D are delays. The next E is emotions, and the last E is energy. These 6 things, really there are 9 things. These 6 things are things that will come up, or 8 things really, that may fight you and be an opponent to you, be an enemy for you. Last but not least is the 6 laws of resistance. I didn't even list them here. The 6 laws of resistance is the law of delay, the law of distraction, which is 2 Ds, so just a little redundant. The law of resistance, that's a little redundant too, doesn't matter. The law of zigzagging. Zigzagging is, I can't go deep into that. All of this stuff gets deep. Zigzagging is just a certain way that events turn out, but they seem to zigzag. But anyway, the law of zigzagging, the law of the last minute effect, I call that LME, and LOGG, which is the law of glitches, technical or just physical glitches. Now, all that stuff I named out, these are things that show up as the enemies and the opponents that you may have to fight. That's why it has to be an emotional must. I'm just naming them. I didn't go way off into them and explain them. Just listed them off. All of that, knowing all of that, and we pretty much do whether we acknowledge it or not, all of that is meaningless without your big why. Your big why, which makes it a must. The big why has to have passion, purpose, and meaning. It makes it a must. You have to be willing to accomplish something in life, to achieve something in life worthwhile for you and or other people, your family members or whoever. So the big why can be big enough, powerful enough, and strong enough to defeat all of it is named. Okay, that's about it. I mean, I got a little bit here talking about a trip to Disneyland, the big picture and all of that, and the paragraphs, and time achievement, a couple other things, whatever. But purpose and passion, what I mentioned that. Advanced purpose, okay, I mentioned all that. Personal, I mentioned all that. But yeah, this thing is freezing up, acting the fool, whatever, cutting off. I don't know what it's doing. Yeah, it's acting the fool, freezing up, doing all type of weird stuff. But anyway, yeah, so this is why your big why. Today is Motivational Monday. And your big why is important, and it froze up bad again. Seems like when I get super deep on some stuff, certain time, this bad boy start freezing up on me. But whatever. I'll do this stuff again at some point. These are kind of like staples and standards, part of my CFH concepts. So I'll do this stuff again. It won't be the last. But anyway, yeah, this is time management hooked in with your big why, or fueled by your big why. And the big why dives deep. But anyway, yeah, so this is Kev the Cashflow DJ. I'm going to get up out of here, let this phone and this thing do whatever this technical stuff that it's doing. It's acting a fool. Technology. But yeah, it's Kev the Cashflow DJ. Come holler at me at cashflowhustlesradio.com. That's like the radio show podcast we put up. Cashflowlistbuilders.com for hashtag the group economics movement. Check me out with that. Shout out to MLA Challenge, my Lifestyle Academy Challenge, for sponsoring this 30-day challenge for the videos. You can have your own 30-day challenge, and we're trying to get everything hammered today, since today is a big Monday, and I love Mondays. It's kind of weird, but boy, do I love Mondays. But anyway, we're kind of trying to get everything hammered out today so we can start get the classes going for the 10 days to cash flow classes. Hopefully we can start registering next week, if not the week after. I want to start registering next week. Maybe after the week after, which will be in August. But anyway, got a lot of stuff coming up, man. A lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff on the table. There's all type of stuff going on. So anyway, this is Kev the Cashflow DJ. Catch you guys later. I'm out. Peace. Holla. Have a good one. Thanks a lot.